So let's go over how you would send an email. There is a really easy code. I forget what it is. It's one or two lines. And the reason I'm not using that is because when you're sending email using Python code, it has the potential to trigger spam filters very easily to the point where it can just be blocked and not even enter as spam. And I think this is good. Most of the main email servers do this. Email providers like Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo, because they're trying to protect their clients from, spammers, things like that. So because of that, I use a slightly more complicated way to send email that usually does pretty good in terms of sending out legitimate emails that aren't flagged as spam. So the first thing I want to mention is because this is complicated and because you'll use it as is, you will cut and paste. This is a very rare thing. So I typically will not have you or allow you to cut and paste um, code without changing it. This is an exception, and whenever you do that, whenever you cut and paste code, you definitely need to cite it. Otherwise, you're in danger of plagiarism. There could be all kinds of consequences here at EMU, but also out in the real world. So anytime you cut and paste more than 2 lines of code, you should make sure that you put a comment stating where you got that code from. And this way, in my class at least, if I feel that you've copied too much, worst case scenario, I just come back to you and say, hey, we need to do a little bit more of this in your own words. But if you don't cite something, then it kind of looks like you're intentionally being sneaky and that you know that you're doing something wrong, but trying to like pass it off as your own work. So anytime you cut and paste more than 2 lines of code, you should make sure that you cite that where you got it from or who you got it from. So that's why you need to make sure that you have this here. But what you're going to do in your project 2 for sending an email is you'll just put all of this as is in your code with the citation. This comment here is more just a note to myself on working with ports. You don't have to worry about ports too much unless you try to use a different, so I'm using Office 365. If you use Gmail, I can't remember if they use the same port. Yahoo might use a different port, but this one can help you look up which port you're needing to use for your email account. So the way this send email function works, it has 5 different arguments here. The sender will be you, so it'll be your email address in quotes. However, I would suggest strongly that you don't use your actual email for 2 reasons. One, depending on how many times you run the program, it could start flagging your actual email as spam, and that could cause problems outside of this project, right? The second reason is you need to put your password for your email as the 5th argument, and I don't want to see your passwords for your actual email accounts. So what I would do is set up a ghost email account, just set up an email account at Gmail or at Hotmail for this particular project that you use, and that way you could just put your password here and it doesn't matter. Or honestly, if you want, this is the ghost email that I was using, and you have my password here, so you could just use these 2 here. I'm fine with that. Of the 5, this is just the header, so you could put that in as a default. You could, whatever you want to say, inspirational text, or when you send an email to someone from their inspirational text, what do you want the header to be? You can choose that. The 2 parts that you'll need to change based on the user input are email. This is their email address, and that's pretty basic. You just, at some point in your project 2, you ask, what is your email address, and then you save it as some variable, and you call that variable when you're calling the send email function. the body, you should not have a great day. The body is where you're actually going to get a chunk of text from their inspirational text. So they're uploading something like the Bible or the Quran or Dhammapada or some kind of inspirational text. And your entire project too is analyzing that text. So for this portion, you're just going to grab a chunk of that text, use string slicing like we did in the first week, and you'll put a slice right here in the body of the email. And that's what will actually get emailed to the person as part of your send email function. So that's send email. Again, don't worry too much about all the details here of what's going on inside. Notice that you do need to have all these modules imported in order for this to work, and I typically put that at the top of my program. As an extra aside, this is not required for Project 2, but I think it's so easy to do. If you ever want to open a web page during a Python program that you're, maybe you make a little game and the person loses the game, and then you want to send them to a YouTube video about coping with loss, or maybe they win a game and you want to send them to "We Are the Champions," like a YouTube video like that. Well, you can do that very, very easily. All you need to do is import web browser. So you would put that at the top where you import all your modules. And then the only other thing you need to do is web browser.open, and then the name of the site. So if you want to go to emu.edu, for example, that's all you need to do. And wherever you put that in your code, it will open the EMU homepage. So very, very easy thing to work with. You can also do a little more advanced. So for example, I was doing something and I needed to give the user an option to search. So first I did my own Google search and I saw what the address that Google sent me to was. And then I used that right here. So that's the basis of a Google search web address. And then it adds in whatever term they're searching for. So I just say, what do you like to search for? They put in banana or monkey or whatever it is. And then I do the web browser open, and I do the normal Google search plus whatever term they put in there, and then that'll send them directly to the results for the term they're searching for. So you can play around with that. Just go to any website, notice what the address is, and sometimes there's a pattern that you can use as part of your code. But anytime you want, you can always just put a specific website there and use web browser open. Web browser also has other functions you could look up that are kind of interesting if you want to interact with the web in your code.